My neighbor, Karen, marched to my doorstep, arms crossed, and declared that my maple tree was too loud. Yes, the rustling leaves were, in her words, a sonic assault on the neighborhood's peace. And the craziest part? Our Homeowners Association, HOA, bought her story and sent me a letter demanding I trim the branches. A tree. Too loud. Welcome to suburban America. I live in Maple Grove, a quiet subdivision in suburban New Jersey, where cookie-cutter houses line up with manicured lawns and white picket fences. My pride and joy is a towering red maple in my front yard, standing over 20 feet tall, its leaves blazing like fire every fall. When the wind blows, the leaves rustle, a soft, soothing sound, like nature's white noise machine. It reminds me of lazy afternoons with my mom, sitting under its shade as she read me stories or we counted falling leaves. I planted this tree 5 years ago, right after Mom passed away. It was a sapling from a local nursery, and I nurtured it with water, fertilizer, and maybe a few pep talks. Don't judge, Mom always said plants have souls. Now it's the heart of my property, a living memory of her. Every rustle feels like her whispering back to me. But not everyone shares my love for nature. Enter Karen, the neighborhood's self-appointed watchdog who moved in 3 months ago. She's in her 40s, with perfectly dyed blonde hair, pastel sweaters, and oversized sunglasses she wears even on cloudy days. Karen's hobbies include measuring her neighbor's grass height, noting who leaves their kids' bikes out too long, and once sending a 500-word email to the HOA about Mrs. Jenkins's wind chimes being a public nuisance. So when she knocked on my door one Saturday afternoon, I braced myself. "Tom," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass, "your tree is a problem." I blinked, waiting for the punchline. "It's too loud. The leaves rustling are giving me migraines and ruining my sleep. You need to do something about it." I chuckled, thinking she was joking. "You mean the leaves? Karen, that's just nature. Wind blows, leaves rustle. It's not like I'm running a chainsaw." "No," she snapped, waving her hand like I'd insulted her intelligence. "It's not normal. It's like a freight train, 24/7. I can't focus on my work-from-home feng shui consultations." Karen runs an online business, something about rearranging furniture for positive energy. But I've only seen her pacing the street, snapping photos of alleged violations for the HOA group chat. I tried to stay polite. "I'll look into it, but it's just a tree. I can't control the wind." Karen's eyes narrowed. "Trim the branches, or better yet, cut it down. It's too big for this neighborhood." She spun on her heels, leaving me dumbfounded on my porch. I figured it was just Karen being Karen, overreacting, then moving on to her next crusade. But I underestimated her persistence. A week later, a letter arrived from the Maple Grove HOA, printed on official letterhead with a green embossed seal, like they were running a small country instead of a 50-home subdivision. The letter read, "Dear Mr. Nguyen, we have received a complaint regarding excessive noise from the maple tree at your property, constituting a violation of community standards under Section 7.3 of the Maple Grove Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions, which prohibits nuisances that interfere with residents' quiet enjoyment. Please trim at least 50% of the tree's canopy within 7 days to mitigate the noise. Failure to comply may result in fines or further action. Sincerely, Maple Grove Homeowners Association noise from a tree?" I reread the letter, expecting a hidden April Fool's disclaimer. But no, they were serious. I called my buddy Mike, a real estate lawyer, who burst out laughing. "Noise pollution from leaves? Tom, your HOA's been watching too many sci-fi movies." I wasn't about to touch my tree. It's not just a plant, it's Mom's legacy. Section 7.3 of the CC and Rs defines a nuisance as any activity that unreasonably interferes with the use or quiet enjoyment of another resident's property, but there's no mention of natural sounds like leaves rustling. I sent a polite email to the HOA, explaining the tree's sentimental value and pointing out that leaf rustling isn't a violation under any reasonable interpretation of the rules. I even threw in a jab: if leaves are a nuisance, maybe we should ban birds chirping or the wind blowing. My email lit a fuse. Karen, an active HOA board member, launched a full-scale campaign against my tree. She went door to door, collecting signatures for a petition claiming the tree was not only noisy, but also a safety hazard. because falling leaves clogged storm drains. A few neighbors signed, likely to get her off their porches. Mrs. Jenkins, the wind chime lady, texted me, "Don't give in, Tom. Karen's just power hungry." The HOA scheduled an emergency meeting at the community center titled Addressing Noise Nuisance at 42 Maple Grove. I showed up with a coffee and low expectations, ready for a circus. The room was packed with about 30 neighbors, mostly retirees who treat HOA drama like reality TV. Karen stood at the front, armed with a stack of papers and a PowerPoint presentation. Yes, a PowerPoint about my tree. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, sounding like a prosecutor on a courtroom drama, "Tom's maple tree is a menace. Its incessant rustling disrupts sleep, lowers property values, and violates our CC and Rs." She clicked to a slide with a bar graph labeled Noise Complaints Since My Arrival, showing a spike that conveniently started when she moved in. I bit my lip to keep from laughing. Harold, the HOA president, a 60-year-old in a neon orange polo, chimed in, "We consulted an arborist who says leaf rustling can reach 40 decibels, which is disruptive for sensitive residents." He glanced at me like I was a criminal for owning a tree. In reality, 40 decibels is about the level of a quiet library, far below the 55 dBA threshold for residential noise in most New Jersey ordinances. I stood up, keeping my cool. "Folks, this tree is a memorial for my mom. It's been here 5 years without a single complaint until Karen moved in. The CC&Rs don't regulate natural sounds, and leaf rustling isn't a nuisance under any municipal code. If we're banning trees, what's next? Squirrels? Harold's lawnmower at 7 a.m. on Sundays?" The room erupted in chuckles, except for Karen and Harold. Karen's face turned beet red. "You're disrespecting the community," she shouted. "If you don't trim that tree, we'll escalate to the police for noise ordinance violations." I shrugged. "Go ahead. I'd love to hear what they say about leaves." 3 days later, a police cruiser pulled up to my house on a crisp Saturday morning. 2 officers stepped out. Ryan, a young guy with a friendly grin, and Martinez, a veteran who looked like he'd seen every neighborhood squabble imaginable. Karen stood by her fence, arms crossed, smirking like she'd just won the lottery. Mrs. Jenkins and a few other neighbors peeked from their windows, popcorn practically in hand. "Morning," Ryan said, eyeing my tree. "We got a call about noise from your tree?" His tone suggested he was already questioning his life choices. I nodded, pointing to the maple. "Yep, Karen says the leaves are too loud. I say it's just nature doing its thing." Martinez raised an eyebrow, glancing at Karen, then at the tree, where a gentle breeze was stirring the leaves. He pulled out a decibel meter, a small device used to measure sound levels for noise complaints. "Let's see what we're dealing with." He stood under the tree, activated the meter, and waited. After a minute, he showed Ryan the reading, 32 decibels. Ryan grinned. "That's quieter than my desk fan at the station." Martinez nodded. "Karen, ma'am, this is well below the township's daytime noise limit of 65 decibels A for residential areas. It's not even close to a violation." Karen's jaw dropped. "But it's constant. It's driving me insane." Martinez, unfazed, replied, "If leaves are a problem, you might want to try earplugs. We can't cite someone for nature." He turned to me, lowering his voice. "Between you and me, this is the weirdest call I've had all year." The crowd of neighbors, now gathered on the sidewalk, burst into laughter. Mrs. Jenkins yelled, "Give Karen a gold star for effort!" Karen stormed back to her house, her sunglasses slipping down her nose. After the police left, I decided to double down. I planted 2 more maple trees, one in my front yard next to the original, and one in the backyard, ensuring maximum rustling coverage. Now, when the wind blows, my property sounds like a full-on nature symphony. Most neighbors love it. Mrs. Jenkins even said it's better than her meditation app. To rub it in, I ordered a top-of-the-line pair of noise-canceling headphones and had them delivered to Karen's house with a note, "For when the leaves get too wild, sweet dreams." I don't know if she uses them, but she hasn't filed another complaint. Maybe she's learned that nature always wins. The HOA backed off too. Harold avoids eye contact at the grocery store, and I heard they're revising their noise nuisance rules to avoid another embarrassment. My maples stand tall, rustling proudly. A reminder that some things, like memories and nature, are worth fighting for. Got a tree that's too rock and roll for your HOA? Or a neighbor with a wild complaint that deserves its own YouTube episode? Drop your stories below. I want to hear all the suburban sagas, from noisy leaves to outlawed lawn gnomes.